Keep kicking, never quitting. Focus sharp like a blade that's hitting. From white belt dreams to the master flow, Paul Coffey's got the mic, now the stories grow. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Old school, new school, all styles blend. From the mat to the mic, where the arts ascend. Philosophy deep, but the vibe stays tight. Martial minds meeting in the podcast light. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Keep Kicking, the martial arts podcast, where I have martial conversations with my martial arts friends. Today is another special episode for a couple of reasons. One, I'm enjoying the sunshine. I am dog sitting, so I'm outside. Two is I am with another one of the martial arts radio whistle kick podcast guests. So we're not going to get into pasts and into martial journey. We're just going to have a conversation. Sir, would you like to give us one or two sentences about yourself? Just a quick summary.
Sure. My name's Taqqee Khabir. I'm 43 here in a few months. Done martial arts all my life. Currently, what I'm practicing and studying for myself is mostly Silat and Kalas. That's kind of what I'm currently doing. And if you're interested in why that is, we can go into more detail.
Yeah. Excellent. When's your birthday?
October 25th.
Okay. I will be 43 in 6 days as of recording it. Yeah, we're roughly, and I don't know, like you said, your whole life. I started when I was 10, so I got 32, almost 33 years of, yeah, that's awesome. So one of the things that I've been asking everybody, and I've been trying to do it fairly early on, is what advice do you have for somebody that's not a martial artist, but is thinking about martial arts? The idea is hopefully this podcast goes into somebody's algorithm just because they were Googling martial arts. So what advice do you have for the non-martial arts practitioner?
The non-martial arts practitioner, there could be lots of different reasons for somebody to start martial arts. It could be they're worried about self-defense. It could be they're worried about fitness. They want to understand culture and their family, something like that. Simple advice is don't wait, do it.
That's right.
There's so many benefits beyond what you go seeking for that we could spend the entire podcast talking about those benefits, and I guess improve yourself and improve just the practice of martial arts, whether you ever fight or not, whether you ever spar or not, right? So what it was all about. And you had to just be an awesome fighter. And now that I'm a little wiser, a little older, um, there's so many other benefits besides just being able.
Absolutely. Mhm. Absolutely. I will also say that cultures come up in the podcast a couple of times, but not nearly enough. And one of the things that we do as martial arts is study and expand on cultures. And that's not brought up enough. So it needs to be said again. Okay. So now we'll kick it off with the difficult question, the question that's been labeled difficult. And this is the question that I've been doing on this podcast. I started this podcast in part selfishly, the same way that we start teaching selfishly. Because, yeah, we're teaching to help other people, to cultivate other individuals. But part of the reason we teach is so that we can see other people do the technique and we can learn from those other people, right? Like, that's part of the reason. That's just all there is to it. There is some selfishness to teaching. And so the podcast has that same vein, stuff that I'm working on in my own martial arts, journey. I kick it to fellow martial artists and I see what they say. So this question starts with an omission. The omission is, as a lifelong practitioner of martial arts, I recognize that I'm equal parts sadistic and masochistic, and I'm probably in the minority. Most of the students that come through the dojo doors are not going to be that. So the question is, how do we teach nonviolent individuals to speak the language of violence when it's necessary?
Question 10. I feel like we don't talk about that enough in martial arts. We just
That's what I'm
assume
doing.
that people come in ready to do what they need to do. So we teach them the
Absolutely.
technique, and then as soon as they get the technique, they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I like this question. See here. Um,
Good.
so I get several kind of variations, like non-violent, right? People
Mm-hmm.
that I have the people who don't believe they are capable. They believe they're too weak, so they can't be violent. They don't.
Sure.
And then I have the people that have a moral like objection to using violence.
Yeah.
And I have to teach those people slightly different.
Sure.
So the people who don't believe they're physically capable, not
Mm-hmm.
that they have something against violence, but they just don't believe that they're capable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have to let them discover their own step by step, their own capability step by step. So we and give them small things, like maybe I realize they need conditioning. They don't have the physical strength. So we say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, we're going to do some weight training. We're going to do some resistance training. We get to that point where they're looking at the weights, right? Whatever that big
Mm-hmm.
weight might be for them. And it's like, I can't
Right.
move it. I think you can. Let's take it step by step. I'll be here to support you. I'll spot you. Let's just try. And all of a sudden they lift and they're like, well, I can. Fast forward a few months, that's normal. I don't think I can jump on this box. Don't worry. I believe you can. You're going to work through it. And eventually, over they do have power. The first time that they really taste it, like, oh, I can do this. I could hurt somebody. That kind of like unlocks things, and then they kind of grow from there. The people who have a moral to it, whether it's religious, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
those people are harder because it's not that they're
Sure.
physically incapable. It's that they are consciously holding themselves back, and you may not even know what that is because that could be really deeply tied to their identity.
Mm-hmm.
So hypothetical, right? Um, it could be somebody who grew up in an abusive home and saw violence as a tool of domination and everything else. And so now, as they don't want to be that, so they
Sure.
distance themselves from what they saw, and so coming in
Sure.
and telling them, "Hey, with doing." So we have to reframe is and outside of the context of this emotional identity. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, the first time I kind of understood that, I came to a different place.
Okay.
um, so a little bit of backstory. I am divorced, have children, and once I was first getting out of that divorce, I was having a hard time with it. They also did martial arts. He had this like support group he was running, and he told me to come. And kind of feel like you lost who you were. And I remember how
Mm.
you were the child up and everything else, and now you're doing all the bad things, right? Drinking, you're doing all this stuff, you're depressed, you're not right. Um, and so he says you need to figure out where you want to go, what you believe in. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I thought I had my life figured out, and that didn't work.
Right.
And so they started suggesting things for me to read from different, um, right? And so, like some people were Christian, some people were, pagan, some people were, whatever, Buddhist or whatever. So I have all these different people who are here from all these different beliefs. So they're suggesting, well, maybe look at this, maybe look at this. And I lined up reading the Bhagavad Gita. It's like
Mm,
a new kind of like ethical text. And in there's this whole parable about like how you should think about acting and duty and being non-attached and things like this. And that's where I first kind of understood that you could kind of separate these things. That I don't have to have an emotional attachment to the act of violence, not. And so if I say I don't have to hate you, I don't have to be angry at you to be motivated to do what I have to do. If you were yourself in a dangerous way that's going to hurt me, my family, my loved ones, and I have the skills to do something about it, but I choose not to, like because I'm a good person and not hurting you, I'm abandoning my duties to the people I love that look for me for protection. And so, like, I had to reconcile that. So if you are a person who is non-violent and we need to figure out why that is, one of those ways is sometimes I can say, all right, well, what this person own issue, whatever, we don't know, we don't care. But right now, they're in a situation where they're going to harm you or your loved one. What are you going to do about it? Right. And then I just tell you, like, how will they feel if
man.
or someone?
That's great. That's great. That's a brilliant answer. I love reframing. My journey right now is leading, and I'm following, to trauma informed martial arts instruction and healing trauma through martial arts. And so that's the genesis of where this question comes from. I was teaching a group of my nonviolent friends martial arts. I was teaching them, I don't call it self-defense, I call it self-preservation, because I feel like self-defense is disingenuous in our business for a lot of different reasons. But so I was teaching them, and I also don't do it in a one-off seminar style, because I hate the idea of come to me for 4 hours, I can teach you everything, and you're just making people more dangerous for themselves on the street. So I teach clinics where it's a reoccurring class and they are expected to come back, and it's part of the culture that we're learning and cultivating, not necessarily martial arts, but martial skill as it relates to self-preservation. And one of my students said, yeah, but like, you're a nice guy. How do you go be violent and do the thing? And I said, well, as martial artists, I'm talking to a friend, and now I flip a switch and that person no longer has an identity. They're not in front of me as a friend. It's just a body that I now have to deal with. It's an obstacle. And that's kind of like, that's the best wording that I had to explain what we as martial artists do, right? But the counter argument from that was, I've been a victim and I've been dehumanized. I don't want to do that. And it made me think, I'm a victim of childhood abuse, and I had a birth defect. I had an nauseum of trauma that I had to myself unpackage. But I think the difference is I was being abused when I was 9. I put myself mostly into martial arts when I was 10. And when I was 11, I had enough martial skill and confidence in that skill that I stood up to my abuser. So like, I think that like just that part of my martial journey explains why I'm okay with using violence as a tool, whereas other people might not be, because they're much further removed from that trauma, and being further removed from that trauma gives them too many other perspectives, I think.
That you hit the nail on the head, and to kind of further that is that
Mhm.
with your story early on in your growth, you had using violence,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
to then affect change. So you had self agency, right, at some
Mhm.
point. If you go enough without self agency, you don't have a way to affect change. It becomes like almost learned helplessness, like how like when you break an elephant, you like attach a chain to them when they're a baby, and they learn they can't move past it. But by the time they're an adult, they theoretically could break that chain, but because they've done it so long, they don't even try anymore. That
Mm-hmm.
learned helplessness is one of those things that you have to work through. And like you can't be like, like you can do this and you be hard on them. You have to be nurturing. You have to make a safe space. You have to help coax through the apprehension, the fear, the self doubt, and then even maybe the self loathing that might come first time that they hit you and it hurts.
Mm,
They see that you have a reaction and through that. And so
right.
as martial artists, I think that's one of the next things, right? I see some place where it was saying like, there's not very many third places in right where you can go and hang out and feel safe. And I try to make my school that third place for my students and things like this so they can come. And I have so many people come that have different traumas and things like this. And the pattern is always the same. Like they come in, they feel like they need something, but they don't exactly. They're not sure if they
Yeah.
even fit in. And then if they stay long enough, all of a sudden one day they come in and their personality is different. They've opened
Yes.
up. They start their self agents.
I love that, man. Self taught self agency. Like I love the way that that's brilliant.
Uh-huh.
Tell me how do we teach those individuals? What techniques do we use? Obviously,
So
the first step is something that not all of us martial arts instructors exercise enough, which is listening.
yes. And so when I have somebody come in, if they share with me that they have a history of trauma or abuse and they're trying to get over something, they have injuries, I always ask, like, intake form, there's a section there for that specifically, like any injuries, any traumas, any allergies, any medical conditions, all that stuff, right? So give them a way where they ever have to talk to me in person. So that's the first step of making it accessible and letting them know this is something that is okay and it's normalized.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I meet them, usually when they first come in, I'll understand where they're at, what they're looking for, what they want to get, what their worries are, what their fears are, right, about joining the class. And then if they share with me anything at that point in time, then I'll keep that in mind in the beginning. Usually people don't share off the bat. Right?
For sure not.
um, but even if they don't ever say anything to me, a lot of times I can tell, right? After a while, you're around people, you can just see, right? And so you just keep that in mind, right? And how we approach them, how we, invite them into doing certain things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna address this. I don't gotta tell the whole class. It's between me and you, and we will work together as they're going through classes. So I might say in class we're gonna do this technique, and then here's 3 different ways that we can do it. One of those ways might be very specific for this student because I
Mm-hmm.
know what their limitation is, right? And they will already figure it out, like based on their limitations. Oh, I know that these ones are out of the picture for me, but this one is gone, right?
Right.
Um, And so that way it's very inclusive. They never get singled out and it makes it a safe space. And I always tell them that this is your art. Like you are going to learn something from me, but you have to take it for the way you move is not going to be the same way that I move. The choices that you make won't be the same choices that I make. I want to give tools and make you understand the logic behind doing so that you
Mm-hmm.
can apply the technique that works for you using the same logic. The logic is still the same. The reason behind why I'm doing what I'm doing is still the same. How I achieve this goal might be different.
Absolutely.
And so that is how I start to break down the idea of what we're doing as a martial artist. After you do, and one style has a flair here, one will flair here, but a lot of times the mix are the same, right? You want to put power behind something, so we're going to rotate and align our bone structure and everything else to drive with the big muscle groups, right? All these things, right? Um, and it takes time for people to get there.
Yes.
If
Yes.
I do see that people are kind of building up and if they do share with me, hey, I'm going this and I know depends on what they want. If they want to do private lessons with me or they want to do class, but just be mindful and work.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it's kind of what I did. I didn't, I was being abused for a year and as a child wondering, when is it going to stop? When is it going to stop? And then there was a turning point and I was like, it's not going to stop unless I stop it. You know, 10 years old. as a Batman fan, I was like, well, I guess I need martial arts. I have no other ideas, you know?
Yeah, I feel like many of my friends that I know who arts or do martial arts were inspired by these fictional characters, right? That in the more and the character traits of these, superheroes, like
Mm-hmm.
to work through things in our life, in different ways. And it seems like we're all nerds, geeks, we're into comics and things like
For
this.
sure. For sure.
Now, for
Yeah.
me, it was Spider-Man first,
Okay.
right? And so the message of like Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
As I got older, that became something that was around like how I use my martial arts and my power, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school, a lot of times I was the shield for the people theater club. I was, a theater geek. I had friends who were in those, historically franchise groups. They would be like, the sports guys, the jocks, and this, and I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't stand for it, you know, even because of it, right?
Right.
Um, but this person endured this not just physically, but like spiritually, mentally, emotionally. It's going to be more taxing on them. I know what I can handle mentally.
Mm,
So even if I am hurt physically, I'm not emotionally scarred.
absolutely. You were
So
already
I can
pressure
handle it.
tested.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, so is how I didn't realize that's what I was doing when I was a kid. I just didn't like bullets. And the people who were, around me who I considered friends, I wanted to protect them. But now as like I got older, like when I graduated high school, I remember who I skateboarded with. His name was we called him Otto, right? That was his nickname. And he was a small guy. He was short, and like he would get picked on. And some of the other skateboard guys didn't like him because he was young. He couldn't do as many things, so they were kind of like, him. But no, he's part of us. He skateboards. We're gonna treat him. We're gonna teach him. We're
mm,
gonna train him up. This little collective. And I remember one day we were skating after school, and he went in to go get something to drink, and he was gone for a long time. But where's Otto? Let's see. We go in. He's by the little vending machine trying to get a. But like all the football players are around him, and they're pushing up against the thing, and they're hassling him. And I learned this skateboard not like most people did in the times. I 2002, so it wasn't like the 90s, but
right. 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 Right.
decided one day I was gonna skateboard and have anybody in my neighborhood skateboarded. I saw it on like YouTube wasn't a thing really back then, so
Right.
I saw maybe some pictures or something like that, maybe some old like 80s videos of people skateboarding or something. And so I went to the library to get a book on it.
Nice.
And it was like from like the 70s or something. And so they had boards with the little plastic runners on them and all like that. So, like the tricks that were in that book, not what people were doing. That's what I started with. And I used to wear these like workout gloves so I could do like power slides on the ground and stuff, right?
Nice.
So I walk it, I have these gloves on, I have my board, and I'm holding it by the trucks that was happening. And this is so funny. Like this is like larger than life. I think about it, right? And
Right.
I clear my voice, right? And they all turn, right? It's after school, right? And
Right.
I'm like, do we have a problem? How did I say it that way? Like I was really gonna beat up all five of these guys. But because I had this reputation that I knew, kung fu or whatever,
Right.
like I leaned into it heavily.
Right. Right.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that I do now. I don't know that I would have been able to do anything really.
Right.
But they look at me, they see the gloves, and I remember like the ringleader kind of looks me up and down, and then he backs with my nah, right? And Otto is set free. He takes off. Um, And then when I graduated, he wrote this really thoughtful like thing in my yearbook. And I'm like, I didn't know that
Great.
adult, I'm getting something at McDonald's and somebody's yelling my name, but they're saying it correctly. I revert
Sure.
usually say my name unless they know me, right? And I'm like, the person that's saying my name, and like they must know me because they're saying it correctly, but I don't recognize them.
Right.
It's Otto. He
Wonderful.
remembers me. 20 years like that. He's like, hey, how you doing? This, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. But that's like this idea of being a shield for other people. Like,
Hmm.
that's how I saw it, as like thing with this for me, and like the things about standing up.
For sure. For sure. Absolutely. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I listened to your interview that you had that came out, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. And what I found that was most interesting is successes in helping people with trauma and everything. Like, trauma is such a big word and it's like the hot, term right now, but I think there's a lot to be said for martial arts as a means for healing trauma. And that could be healing your body because you fell 2 years ago when you slipped on ice. That could be healing physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. That could be healing religious trauma. That could be healing the trauma that you were called a jerk the week before and it stuck with you. Do you know what I'm saying? But I find it, I have my own success stories, but hearing my brothers also have success stories in healing trauma is very enriching and very beneficial. And it's like, oh no, it can be done. I'm not crazy. We keep going. So I just want you to talk a little bit about your work in helping people heal themselves and what you do. I also I'm very much of the opinion that Whistlekick is onto something, that the world would be a better place if everybody did martial arts for 6 months, and that we have to make it as accessible as possible. And so I give people pointers and tips all the time for free, just because, like, you're not going to learn all of the art for free, but I can give you this taste. And if I give you a breathing exercise or a movement that helps you relax your shoulders, I have done something positive. So just, you take it wherever you want to take it. The floor is yours. Let's heal
Okay.
some trauma.
So yeah, so I grew up in a very, and so that kind of led me to the idea that this was something that should be out. And because, if I didn't have that, maybe I wouldn't have been as open to learning about this to begin with. Right?
Hmm.
So I have to give credit that part. But what really sent me down this path when I first started teaching, um, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, so I wasn't sure that I wanted to do this and things like that. That group that I was telling you about earlier is where I first started to teach at, and they encouraged me to teach. But then I didn't really know how to
Right.
figure it out. And this lady reaches out to me, and I'm based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and so University of Michigan for me, who was running their self-defense program. The Title IX thing was blowing up. The college was trying to get into compliance classes. Um, and talked to me and talked to me, some guest instructors to come in and show some things. So now I'm freaking out. And so I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know if I can really do this. And I'm like, get the wrong guy. But I go in and I do what I do. And she likes me for whatever reason.
Mm.
Right. And
You're
so she's
genuine.
like, no. Yeah, she says, like, have you thought about doing this more and whatever else and this, that, and the other? And so I like, what are you doing? How is this like, structured? And she decides to like kind of take me under her wing, so to speak, a little bit. She says, hey, if you're really interested in about helping women and things like this and people, like you should do these things. You should read these books. So she gives me several things to look at. One of them was Gore by Bessel
Okay.
van der Kolk.
Okay.
If you want to learn about helping people with trauma, understanding trauma, anything like that, it is a fantastic book. It's very to the author's life from when he was first coming out of school, and et cetera, et cetera. And it really opened my eyes, and it was a very educational read. Learned a lot. Right. So that was my first kind of induction. Like this trauma is something that is real. It's not just
Yes.
in your head. It's also in your body.
Yes.
Um, and a lot of times with people seeing stuff like this for years, and then they never really get past that because they're trying to make it make sense logically. They're trying to force these emotions and these feelings out of their body by will alone.
Yeah.
But if you've suffered, you know, some kind of trauma, um, your body remembers that. And so people are kind of say, have you ever almost been, let's say, you're driving through an intersection and you're going through and you realize somebody's running a red light on you. You get a split second to make a decision. You can hit the brakes and you're going to get smacked, take off, and it just barely,
Mhm.
and it barely misses you. You're shaking and everything else, but you get through the intersection, maybe you pull over and you're breathing and you're like, oh my God, that was so scary.
Mhm.
You realize that you were able to affect disaster.
Mm.
You probably won't get traumatized. But if that same thing happened and you get smashed and you get hurt, now you're scared of intersections because you didn't have self agency. And so what I do say, we don't have to talk about this bad thing that happened to you, whatever's going on, whether it's a physical injury or somebody did something to you, some kind of abuse you had to endure. If we teach you that you have self agency in this small little frame here in the class, somebody throws a punch at you, you learn how to identify what's happening and build the skills to deal with what's happening. That builds self agency in a very small slither of your life that you can compartmentalize without having to look at all this messy stuff part of your life. But after you get to a certain point of that's something you were really confident at, it starts to bleed out. It's like you fill that cup up, it bleeds out to all the other pieces in your life
Mm.
slowly.
Mhm.
Now, when we start to do that, you start to see where you start to feel this change is shifting in how you look at the world, how you think about it. And then maybe you are ready to say, hey, I want to look at this a little bit more deeply. I want to target this a little bit more deeply. But even if you don't, that in itself will help start shifting you from this idea that you don't have self agency and that these things may be out of your control to that I can control at least this part, right?
Mhm.
So, um, when that happens, if people are starting to get overstimulated in this, and okay, then we introduce these other tools. Okay, here's some breathing exercises. Here's grounding. Feel your body and relax the body. Tension, relax the body, like we're breathing. Right,
Mhm.
to help regulate the nervous system. Right. Let's slowly integrate and stress you right in a way that feels safe. When I'm
Mhm.
teaching people skills, one of the ways I do, especially when I know that they have some kind of trauma. Sure. Um, so being a background in like Southeast Asian martial arts, Filipino martial arts, there's a drill called Huba, which is like a sensitivity drill where it's like, you parry, you check, pass and pin the arm to the body and then you can hit, right? It's
Mhm.
like a little cyclical drill that goes back and forth. Maybe I'll
Okay.
start with a drill like that.
Yeah.
And you go slow. See this punch. All right. See this punch.
Mhm.
Throwing it out here like this. I started throwing it at them, but slowly at them.
Yes.
Then say, okay, now as we use this, now my targeting is on the intention of what I'm doing. It's not just like
Mhm.
me putting my arm out here now. Now it is a punch, but this is a slow moving punch. But it is coming at you. If you don't move, it's going to hit you.
Mhm.
Let me point they can do
Mhm.
that. Then it's all right. Now we're gonna go a little faster, a little harder, more intention. Now I'm gonna turn on the aura, right?
Mhm.
That my eyes are focused. I'm locked in. You can see that I'm postured and I'm ready to they do this. You have what it takes, and we do that to point to they. I'm falling apart. Can't handle it. You back down. Then you still do that bit of it.
Mhm. 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 Right. You know what? Your approach, what I and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm so excited. What you're doing is, and I don't know if you're doing it intentionally or not, but you're expounding upon the traditions of martial art. Because the traditional answer from hundreds of years ago is we drill this structure, we drill this structure, we drill this structure, and then the structure becomes second nature. And then the structure becoming second nature is what, gives us our martial awareness or whatever and allows us to do the thing. But you're doing that with the nervous system, you're doing that with the emotional regulation, you're doing that like you're expanding upon that original idea. I love that, brother. I
Yeah.
love that.
That's how I've been doing it. So, like, yeah, I teach people martial arts, but most of the time it's development. It's helping people build past this thing. And whether it's, you know, I had an injury. I have, several clients now that I don't teach martial arts to. We work on ability and movement and strength. I have clients that are one person had double knee surgery, and they came to me and said, I used to be an athlete, used to play soccer, and after this these surgeries, I've gained weight, I'm able to move, and I miss that. I
Mm,
don't know if I'll ever be able to run again, right? And I'm like, all right, let's look and see where you're at. And I could see that they're afraid to trust their legs to catch them now, right?
mm,
So I say, all right, we're gonna build those up. We're gonna go slowly. We're gonna step right here, step by step. I just build you up. And even though I'm focusing on the body, it's a too.
yes.
You have to get them comfortable with finding the strength that their body has now, being
Mm-hmm.
okay with that, and then understanding that even where we are right now,
Mm-hmm.
we can also be okay with it. I think so much in
Yes.
today's society, it's this radical acceptance. Right? They speak about like love and everything else, which is good, but I think that the nuance of that has been kind of like shifted, right?
Yes.
I don't have to hate myself to want to improve myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can say I love myself, but I understand maybe where the best version of where I could be or the healthiest version of where I could be.
Mm-hmm.
Prove that. I don't want to shame anybody. I have bodies that come in, different ages, different abilities. But the idea is that if we understand we can love ourselves enough and accept ourselves enough where we are, we can say, of this, I can still want to improve. Like love your kids.
Absolutely.
But you don't want your kids to not have discipline. You don't
Right.
want your kids to not know skills and understand consequence and things like that, right? So we discipline, teach them, guide them to make them grow into a more functional adult. And so we don't want to self that. Well, if I love myself, I don't have to change anything except where I am. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people say this, and I think it's back to that learned helplessness, right?
Right.
If I am feeling like I can't do something, maybe I can just with where I'm at.
Mm.
Self where it is that
Mhm. I've changed the wording of that to just let's meet ourselves where we are instead of, that way it's very neutral. I'm meeting myself where I am, and
Mhm.
maybe that's meeting myself with tight hips or meeting myself with an ankle that needs extra rehab or meeting myself with internal demons that need to be squashed. That's good. That's good. Absolutely. I love it. So, you also said you had struggled with imposter syndrome, and I don't know if you have gotten rid of it or not. I think that's one of the human conditions where most of us struggle with imposter syndrome, no matter what. I know for me personally, I only recently got rid of it all the way.
Yeah.
So, do you have you gotten rid of it? I want to share with you how I got rid of it and hear what you have to
Yeah.
say about it.
I will say that it depends on the realm. Certain places, yes, I
Fair, fair, brother.
feel like I have enough things from a martial arts standpoint now.
Mhm.
I remember for a while I didn't feel comfortable saying that I'm a martial arts instructor. I wouldn't say that to people. I would say, I do blank or I do this, and then I would leave that part out, you know. Um, but now that's what I say. Um, the entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. I
Sure.
don't feel like I'm good at that part as well as I should be, right? That part I'm entrepreneur-ish. But do I feel like I'm an actual martial arts instructor? Can I help people develop them? Yes.
Mm,
Um, person in my family to that I know of to own a business of any sort, right?
awesome.
Um, and so I didn't have people to look to say like,
Mhm.
how is this done, right? So everything I'm
Right,
learning,
right.
I'm trying to learn on my own and piece together, right?
Mhm.
And so that part, I'm trying to marketing and everything's moving so fast in the digital age now. Like
Sure
these
is.
algorithms and all that.
That's the first thing that you said that showed your age. These algorithms. Love it. Okay. Do you know the band Tool by some chance? When you said you were a skateboarder, I was hoping so. Well, Maynard James Keenan, who is the lead singer of Tool, Perfect Circle, Pussifer, you're familiar with at least some of his work. He was recently on the Steve-O podcast, and he and Steve-O had a very sincere conversation about imposter syndrome. And Maynard, suffers from imposter syndrome. Yeah, to this day. And he has 3 bands that are all successful. He has a vineyard. He owns a good portion of Jerome, Arizona. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He owns a Jiu-Jitsu school in Jerome. He owns a record store in Jerome. He's a published author. His wine has won awards. And so I heard all that and I was like, if he still has imposter syndrome, I have no shot. I have no chance of ever beating it. So I can just let it go. And literally that's such a simple lesson, but him saying, no, I don't think of myself like that. That's all it took. And I was like, well, I guess I don't have a shot. So I'm going to let it go.
Okay.
So yeah, now, and this was recent. This was like, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. You find it pretty easy if you look for the Steve-O podcast.
Okay.
So that's how you can beat imposter syndrome, is find somebody that you look up to and realize that they also have it. Sure.
Still go.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, part of what we do as martial artists is mimicry or some sort of, like I'm trying to do the front kick that my first instructor did because it's the good front kick, So like I'm trying to mimic, so I have to compare myself in some regard. I think that the comparing yourself is interesting because it brings us back to trauma, because, there's the topic of you shouldn't compare traumas. And a lot of people say that, like, most commonly that is used where I would say, yeah, but this person experienced this and that's less than what I experienced. So I should just kind of suck my trauma up and get over it. But from a martial arts and a martial arts instruction standpoint, especially from an instructor standpoint, we might have a woman, as an example, who is in our school who was abused as a child, and she's now in a slightly abusive relationship. But because she compares those traumas, she says, well, what I went through was bad. This is not as bad, so I can handle it. And it forces her to stay in that relationship. So we also, as people, need to not compare what's in front of us to what we've been through. We've all been through our own version of hell, and it has shaped us. But that doesn't mean that we should then accept the discomfort that is here. We should figure out a way to work and change it. So yes, no, we should not compare ourselves in any way. We're just about that self improvement, but we also have to have some comparison.
I think what you said is great, because that we will as a means to judge our value, right? But one of the other traps is, if we feel like we've been through hell, we can say, well, this is not as bad, not ideal or detrimental to me because it's not as bad as what I've already done. And so we have to think about, like, we have better tomorrow or better things. And so we might have our tribulations today, whatever it is. Doesn't mean we have to accept that that has to be our life.
Right.
And so I think that, for me, as the person, like, when am I going to feel like I've made it as an entrepreneur, right? These people who are famous now that have something else, and you hear these stories about when they actually made it. Some of these actors and actresses, you're like, well, they didn't get their break life, right? And you're like, what were they doing before that, right? Well, they were doing acting, but they also had a 9 to 5. They did this, blah, 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 blah. But the main thing is that I hear in all these, when that break happens, the thing that runs across the line, they never stop doing whatever they're.
Right.
They didn't do it necessarily because they were trying to get famous. They did it because they loved what they were doing, right? And even if that didn't sustain them fully at first, they kept doing it because it fulfilled.
Absolutely.
They had all doing, and then finally that momentum build to the crescendo. You get if you never you will become famous. If it fulfills you, like it's a worthwhile endeavor, why would you give that up?
Right.
Say, well, you know what?
Ooh.
And so
That hits for more than just artists, though.
yeah,
You know? How many
mhm,
people that may listen to this and are fed up with their job because they're not recognized for the effort that they're putting in, you know?
yeah. And so it's one of those things where you can say, this is what I'm doing right now. I may not be getting recognized, but like if it
Eh,
does in life and it's beneficial for you in some way, then you can keep doing it. If you're special for me because it hurts me, it's something else, maybe trim that off, right? Grow beyond that. Find to fulfill you in some way. So for me, Mark, like I'm using it as my career right now, but it does fulfill me in a way beyond the monetary, right?
yes.
Able to express myself. I have ADHD, so movement is huge for me to be stay grounded, right?
Say.
If I don't move around, I'm but then also when I help people grow, I do something good. It makes me feel good about myself that I'm affecting positivity in the world and change in a meaningful way. And
Mhm.
so, close down my school, run business ever again, I'm still gonna be doing martial arts.
Absolutely.
Cool. But I'll have my other thing on the side,
Mhm.
and who
Right.
knows, maybe down the road, then it'll come back. I have friends that had gyms, and over COVID, they had to close the gym down and had to go do something else. Right?
Mhm. Mm. Right.
That like doesn't mean you have to accept that is the way your life will be.
Right. I'll also say that if you follow that spark, it will pull you back every time.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
Uh, I try and keep these at an hour. We're almost to the hour mark. What didn't I
Okay.
ask? What didn't you get to say?
Um, I mean, there's tons of stuff that obviously a lifetime of things that I've experienced. I like what we're talking about on for these of how like movement helps with trauma. I could talk about how it affects the central nervous system, parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, all these things. Right. But
Right. Right. We
what
could
I
do that
would
at some
say
other time.
is, yeah. Um, what I will say is that I am really interested in how traditional um, practices and understandings of how to move the body are circling back around, right? And all these things from all different cultures around the world
Mhm.
are being rediscovered, whether it's like, the meditation and the benefits of yoga or Tai Chi or, being mindful, or if it's something to do with, how to heal the body and move, acupressure, acupuncture, or even more out there things like now they're talking about like, they just prove like psilocybin and psychedelics or like treating
Yes.
trauma for veterans and stuff. I'm like, there were cultures that did that as a means of, transitioning from different parts of your life to help things. All this stuff that you
Yes.
could pursue that are outside of traditional. If nothing has
Yes.
worked for you so far, there are other things you could possibly look at that might
Mhm.
help move you to closer to where you want to be.
Right. Excellent. Where can the people find you?
You can on Facebook. You can find me through Close Quarters Combat Academy. Put that in Google. I'm on Instagram. Not the most prolific poster. I will respond. Um, so like I said, I do have ADHD, so give
Yay.
me a little bit of time. But I will respond.
Right.
Um,
Either
and then
either 30 minutes after you've been messaged or a couple of days.
yeah,
That's the way the ADHD mind works.
I'm available. I do travel.
Wonderful.
It's great.
I thank everybody that sits down with me, first of all, for your time, because time is a precious commodity. But more importantly, I thank everybody that sits down with me because you're now a partial my martial arts journey, whether you like it or not. And that means we absolutely, absolutely have to talk more. I want to thank everybody. Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah.
Train.
Awesome. Awesome. Love it. Whistle Kick did a lot for me in the realization that one of the things that most martial artists are missing is the fellowship. Meet new martial artists, talk with new martial artists, work out with new martial artists, travel. I went to Martial Summit last year. I'm going to be there again this coming year. I'm leaving Thursday to drive up to All In Weekend. I'm going to be in All In Weekend. Go out and do the thing. It will enrich your art more than you realize by talking to other people, being open-minded and having those open-minded, open heart perspectives, letting it all in. It only makes us better as martial artists, and we like can't do it enough. And like, so I say all that to say last year made me realize that this year has been a year of travel for me, and next year is another year of travel for me. So if you don't make it down to me, maybe I'll make it to you. Okay. But I should talk to you about maybe trying to come in and teach at my free training day, because I'm hosting hosting a free training day. It's going to be August 8th here in Louisville, Kentucky, you know, because Whistlekick does free training days. So we're doing one in Louisville this year. So, yeah, right. Yeah. You got to make sure the boss clears it before you commit. I get it. I want to thank everybody that watched, listened, some combination of this. I hope you guys got all of it, got something out of it. And if you didn't, probably listen to it again, because there's a wealth of knowledge that are in these casts and in the people that I'm so fortunate enough to talk to, that if you didn't get something out of it, you probably were not listening well enough. So, and always, everybody, please keep kicking.